What's the dumbest thing someone ever told you that actually worked? I had a headache at work years ago. At a previous job, I almost never get headaches, so it was pissing me off because I couldn't ignore it. My coworker, I can get rid of it. Come here, I'll squeeze your head. Me. What? I'll squeeze your head. And sure enough, he grabbed my head and squeezed the side so hard I thought he was going to fracture my skull. Then he squeezed from front and back. Him better. That headache was gone and never came back. Now I go around curing my co-workers' headaches. Everyone thinks I'm nuts until it works. My therapist told me to give myself permission to grieve later because I was grieving something that hadn't happened yet. It sounded so obvious when she said it. Because she said you're going to grieve it later. It hasn't happened yet. So give yourself permission to grieve later and to not right now. Bizarrely, it worked to the most part. And I give myself permission to do other things later. To worry, get mad, cry, etc. Somehow the act of consciously telling myself I can do it later makes it not so overwhelming right now. My cousin told me that if you have hiccups, have someone stare into your eyes and ask you when you are going to hiccup next. I laughed it off initially. But when I next got hiccups, I jokingly asked my mum to try it with me. And it works. When nothing else can get rid of my hiccups, it does it every time. I chalk it up to eye contact, and having to concentrate on the hiccups to answer when they are coming is some sort of placebo effect that changes your breathing pattern. I'm not sure where I learnt this, but just shutting your mouth is surprisingly often the best course of action. I'm social, I like to talk, but in all sorts of settings like work and relationships, just saying nothing and being comfortable with silence surprisingly works out to your benefit. I've had partners who thought I was a much more complex person than I actually am. TBH, it's hard to say how this can benefit you, but more people should try it on. A building manager once told me that if someone ever constantly complains about something they do, not control, give them a fake dial button or anything so they have the illusion of control. He had balanced all his temp sensors perfectly in a building and got complaints down to all but one woman. So for her, he installed a thermostat near her desk and said, if you feel hot or cold, just adjust this. He never wired it up, but the complaint stopped. I couldn't figure out how to keep my cat from jumping up onto my shelf and eating my plants off the shelf. They were hardy plants, so they survived, but they took quite a beating. My aunt suggested I buy some citrus-scented air freshener and spray the shelf every few days. I thought, ain't no goddamn way. But I didn't want my plants to die, so I tried it. Be damned if it didn't work flawlessly. It's worked for 3 whole years now. Backseat while a friend of a friend was driving us somewhere in downtown Philly. We're trying to find parking and see a space, finally the wrong end of a one-way street though. I tell the friend of a friend to just throw it in reverse and back up down the one-way. Jokingly, she slams it into reverse ... We back it up, she parallel parks it just fine. A cop sitting on the street watched the whole thing and didn't move a muscle. Got a fuel pump for a very old S10. Put it in the truck. It did not work. Google problem. Lots of other people having same issue with same fuel pump and no answer. Some random guy on a S10 forum that I found on page 3 of Google posted 10 years ago that the instructions were wrong on a fuel pump. You needed connect a red wire to the black one and not the green one like the instructions said. Worked instantly. PC monitor didn't want to turn on whatever I did. After trying everything the troubleshooting forum said, I've seen a step worded like I'd have to unplug and plug in again. Then I pulled the cables out and put them back in and it worked. I've been restarting the PC and turning off on the monitor, but it didn't work. XD. Happened twice by now and worked both times. What it is with that monitor lol. If you can't find something, and you know it's right in front of you somewhere, walk away for a minute or two then come back. You'll find it right away. It's easy to get tunnel vision when looking for something, especially when you get frustrated. Stepping back to reset your brain does wonders. Then you get kinda mad since whatever you were looking for is sitting right there where you were looking. I have ADHD and seriously struggle with remembering to brush my teeth before bed. Someone told me to put my toothpaste in the sink, so I would have to physically pick it up and move it out of the way to use the sink. Once toothpaste is in my hand, it'll remind me to actually use it. Sure enough, totally works. I usually have to use the bathroom around the time I get ready for bed. I officiate golf tournaments. This involves long hours of sitting in a golf cart. Then when I had to get out, I'd be very stiff. A friend told me to put a towel down and sit on it, and I wouldn't be as stiff. How could that work? I'm just sitting there not moving, not even driving the cart around. Well, it does work. I'd get out and I wouldn't be stiff. If you find yourself obsessing about something, set a date and stretch of time to worry about it. I have no idea why, but that was the only thing let me set something down in my mind and sleep one night. It was a piece of advice my mother gave me a few days earlier. Ironically, it was something else she'd said to me that was the source of the worry. General knowledge, my father. When I was a kid, if you want to know if the spaghetti is done, throw some at the wall. If it sticks, it's done. Personal anecdote, me in 1992. To a friend, hey, you said I can borrow your truck. Just need the keys. No, you don't. Use your keys. They'll work. And they did. Lots of keys would start his truck. I was traveling for work and at the Pittsburgh airport made a stop in the restroom that has those automatic sink fixtures. The sink wasn't dispensing water or soap, and a custodian told me to hit it until it works. I was successful in my attempts to beat automatic sink fixtures to dispense water and soap with a slap or two from then on. So, someone once swore that talking to plants would make them grow faster. I thought it was a load of horticultural hooey. But in a moment of desperation, I gave it a shot. Lo and behold, my ficus started thriving like it had won the plant lottery, turns out. My green pals just needed some sweet nothings and motivational speeches. Putting mustard on a burn. Got burned pretty bad on my thumb trying to light some old sparklers for a kid. Someone said to put mustard on it. Thought it was stupid, but I did it. It was honestly miraculous. No blister the next day. Have passed this weird secret mystery cure on ever since with repeat results. No idea why it works. I tell people this sick and congested. Salsa, hot salsa. Have some good hot salsa and chips. It cleared my congestion for a few hours. And nothing at the drugstore would even touch it. Plus, there's no dosage limit, have as much as you like. Hot and sour soup also works well. Any spicy food should work, really. If you put a damp paper towel around a can bottle before putting it in the freezer, it will chill faster. It was stupid until I tried it. Then I realized it actually kind of makes sense because the water in the paper towel is essentially acting as a conductor for the cold air temperature in the freezer. When you experience bad turbulence on an airplane, lift your feet up. The movement of your feet messes with your mind and makes it freak out. So if you lift them, your anxiety goes down instantly. Always works for me. But if it doesn't quite do the trick, I recommend ordering a few beers in quick succession. Trying to make weight in high school wrestling. If there was a final ounce, you are over at weigh-in. After you've tried every possible way of getting weight off and out of your body. As a last resort, you would stand on your head right before you got back on the scale. And I swear to God it worked. Doing something half-assed is better than not doing it at all a lot of the time. Like 45 seconds of brushing your teeth is better than not brushing them. Taking a shower and not washing your hair is better than not showering. Cleaning a small area of your house is better than doing nothing. We had a TV that had a video card or whatever is in a TV that shows the images that had connections that were faulty. My husband read online to take it out of the TV and bake it. It softened the solder and made the TV work again. We did that several times and finally the TV did die. If you make a list of everything you have to do, and always write down anything that comes to your mind on the same list, you will not worry about forgetting things. Once it's written down on a list that you know you're going to look at, your brain stops keeping an open tab for it. I did not know how to ride a bike in my mid-20s and asked some friends to teach me, but it took time. So one of them suggested I buy a used bike even without knowing how to ride. I did, and I just learned alone. It was weird and at first, I thought it was stupid, but it worked. To hold my phone under running cold water from the tap to rinse it off after it suffered an unfortunate incident with some lemonade and stopped working. The phone was not waterproof. It still worked. Disclaimer. This was an old Nokia and those things were indestructible. Have a jar with a stuck lid. Smack the side of the lid against the counter a few times. It should allow you to easily pop off the lid right after. If not, smack a few more times and twist. Hasn't failed me before, taught my Essa this, and now she doesn't need me anymore. TT. Tired of procrastinating? Got told to set a time to do 2 things you've been dreading sequentially. With what you are most dreading last, you'll find the first thing much easier to get to, and even if you don't get to the second, at least you got one done. Housemate lost her cat, was devastated. Put up missing posters. An anonymous person contacted her and told her to go out in the middle of the night, yell the cat's name, and then be quiet and listen. She found the cat. It was stuck in the neighbor's shed, holding a small stone to the beak on a chicken, and moving it away slowly will hypnotize it. We had chickens at one point. A joker at work told me this. I didn't believe it for the longest time, but finally tried it and I'll be damned, it worked. Weird. I told a co-worker that spraying her windshield washer fluid on a frosted window in the morning does it faster than waiting for the car to warm up and thaw it. She called me dumb. She tries it a few days later and tells me it changed her life. And hold the chicken while boating, biking, running, etc. And your footage will be very well stabilized because chickens just naturally adjust themselves to hold their heads in one place when moving.